There is a weight you have been carrying for so long, you've forgotten it was never yours to hold. For the deeply feeling soul, this sensitivity wasn't just a choice. It was a fortress you built in childhood to survive. You learned to read the subtle shifts in the room, the unspoken tensions, the hidden sorrows. You became a mirror, not out of virtue, but as a strategy to stay safe in a world that felt unpredictable. You believed this made you kind. You believed it was love. But in truth, it was a brilliant survival mechanism, a way to navigate the emotional landscapes of those who shaped you. This isn't just a personality trait. It is an ancient wound made manifest, a story written in your bones that your worth is tied to how much of others' chaos you can absorb. But a shift is coming. A rebellion is stirring in your spirit. Your body is growing tired of hosting turmoil that isn't its own. Your mind is exhausted from processing feelings that belong to someone else. And in this quiet uprising, you are faced with a new, profound choice. It's no longer about being accepted or rejected. The real decision is between the constant noise of people and the profound silence of your own peace. Your unconscious mind has been preparing you for this moment. It has been laying the groundwork for you to face a truth you can no longer ignore. That your center, your sanctuary, was never in the approval of others, but within the sacred quiet of your own being. Do you see how the same stories keep playing out? You meet the same lesson wearing different faces. You encounter similar betrayals with new names. The same core dynamics repeat in different settings over and again until you finally wake up. This is the law of the returning lesson. The pattern recurs until your soul remembers what it chose to forget. And for you, the forgotten truth is this: you are not the keeper of the storms others choose to create. Yet, your unconscious will keep sending you people, lovers, family, friends, who ask for your endless energy. They arrive not because the universe is punishing you, but because a hidden part of you is demanding you finally confront the cage you helped to build. In your dreams, you might see vast oceans. You are trying to keep your head above water, or you are desperately pulling others from the waves. This is your psyche's cry for help. It is showing you that you are submerged, not in your own emotions, but in the collective emotional field. The water is not yours, yet you are drinking it like it is your only source of life. If you see this stream only as anxiety, you miss its profound message. It is a reflection telling you that you must find the solid ground of your own soul. The archetype of the rescuer haunts those who feel deeply. To have such empathy is to believe you can heal the fractures in others. But what you call saving can often become a form of entanglement. You do not lift them up, you sink with them. And then your own unconscious responds with fatigue, with a simmering resentment, with a bitterness that eats away at the very tenderness that once defined you. You think you are failing at compassion, but in reality, you are being called toward wholeness. The process where your true self must distinguish itself from the roles you play and the expectations of the world. Choosing peace, then, is not a gentle decision. It is a tearing, a death of an old identity. The person who chooses peace is not simply walking away from others. They are walking away from the compulsive need to fix, from the pattern of martyrdom, from the silent agreements that once formed their entire sense of value. And this withdrawal feels like treason. You are terrified that if you stop sacrificing, you will be unlovable. You fear that if you set down the pain of others, you will no longer belong. But listen, this fear is not your own truth speaking. It is the echo of a much younger you, the voice of an old injury, the ghost of a moment when your own needs were silenced so that others could remain comfortable. I speak to you as someone who has studied the landscapes of the soul. To choose peace is to choose a kind of death, the death of an image, the death of a role, the death of the need to be the savior. And from this death, a new life emerges when you stop carrying the weight of the other. You finally feel the mass of your own soul. And yes, it is substantial, but it is real. You discover that beneath the relentless turbulence of others, there was always a quiet place inside you, a sanctuary untouched by the chaos. The ancients called it the inner citadel, the unshakable core. To find it is to realize that peace was never a gift from the outside. It was always born from the integration of your own contradictions. When you finally choose peace over people, the external world will often revolt. Friends may call you self-absorbed. Family may say you've changed. Partners may claim you are distant. They do not see that you are in the midst of a metamorphosis. And all transformation threatens the old agreements they had with you. This is the trial of the sensitive soul. You are met with misunderstanding, with rejection, with the anger of those who relied on your endless giving, and yet, within this trial lies the path to your rebirth. For if you can withstand the solitude of peace, you will awaken to a new inner kingdom. Let me share a vision. Someone once told me they dreamed of a heavy backpack filled with anchors. They trudged through a desert, went under the load. Each anchor was engraved with a name, a parent, a partner, a friend. Finally, they collapsed, unable to take another step. As they fell, the anchors spilled out, and instead of sinking, they transformed. They became seeds, pushing through the sand, growing into a vast, sheltering forest. They realized they had been carrying not dead weight, but potential life, and it was never meant to be a burden on their shoulders. It was meant to be planted. Do you see? The burden of the empath, when finally released, becomes a source of life for themselves and for others. By refusing to carry, you return to others the responsibility that was always theirs. And in doing so, you allow them to grow. Peace is not the absence of love. It is love distilled to its purest form. When you no longer help because you feel obligated, you begin to help because you are genuinely able. Your giving is no longer tainted by exhaustion or hidden resentment. You offer from a place of overflow, not from emptiness. And here is the great paradox. When you finally choose peace over people, you become capable of a truer, freer love than ever before. The path is not easy, and the inner critic will rise like a beast, hissing that you have abandoned your nature. But this guilt is often the gatekeeper of your growth. It appears to test your resolve, to make certain you are ready to cross into new territory. Do not flee from it. Meet it. Question it. Whose voice is this really? Who taught me that to rest is to be lazy? Who made me believe my value depends on my suffering? You will find the answers in the quiet, dusty rooms of your past. In moments when your own voice was dismissed, And when you see its origin, the guilt will start to lose its power. For you will understand it was never your own true voice, but the imprint of another living within you. I tell you, the choice for peace is a sacred act of defiance. It is the moment you stop serving the shadows of others and begin to serve the self, the divine center within. Some call it integration. The mystics called it enlightenment. The philosophers called it the sovereign self. Whatever the name, it points to the same miracle, the return to completeness. The decision for peace does not usually arrive with a shout. It often comes as a whisper, as if the soul is murmuring truths the conscious mind can no longer ignore. At first, you might feel a subtle discomfort. Conversations that once felt normal now leave you feeling drained. Relationships that once felt supportive now seem to take more than they give. You notice your body signaling with tiredness, your mood dimming after too much time attending to others' problems. This is not random. It is your psyche's rebellion. Your unconscious is insisting that the performance must end, that you cannot forever be the container for another's toxicity. And so you face a paradox. The very sensitivity that once protected you now seems to be your undoing. What once made you feel connected now makes you feel isolated. This is how the soul orchestrates its initiation. It turns your gift into a challenge, your strength into a vulnerability, so that you are forced to evolve beyond it. When you finally see that your empathy has been co-opted by ancient patterns, the martyr, the rescuer, the victim, you stand at the edge of your liberation. But liberation demands that you betray the part you once played. And betrayal is always frightening. At this stage, your dreams may become more vivid. Perhaps you see yourself in a loud, crowded train station with countless hands reaching for you, pulling at your clothes. You wake up feeling breathless, not because the dream is just a symbol, but because your unconscious is dramatizing the reality you have been living. The psyche communicates in pictures, in stories, in living symbols, and when you ignore its gentle hints, it begins to scream. To honor such a dream is to admit that you have been enslaved not only by others but by your own agreement to their demands. This is where shadow work becomes essential. You must ask yourself why you are so committed to holding what does not belong to you. Underneath the compassion lies something more complex, a fear of being left, a terror of being labeled uncaring, a dread of the emptiness that appears when you are not needed. To love peace more than people is to allow these shadows to surface, to confess that your giving was never entirely selfless. It was intertwined with your desire to be valued, with your longing to be cherished, with your panic at the thought of being irrelevant. This awareness is not an indictment, it is your key. For only when you acknowledge the hidden side of your empathy can you start to love from a place of true freedom. The world often resists this kind of awakening. Society praises the giver, the martyr, the one who yields. We celebrate those who sacrifice and question those who seek solitude. The empath is thus trapped twice by their own inner shadows and by the outer world's expectations. But remember, social morality can be a disguise for the collective's fear of change. The world does not necessarily want you to awaken, because your awakening disrupts its silent contracts. When you stop complying, others are forced to face their own shadows, their own accountabilities. And so they may accuse you, not because you are wrong, but because you have become a mirror. And mirrors are often feared. It has been said that people will do anything to avoid facing their own inner world, and your refusal to carry them forces that very confrontation. Thus, your act of choosing peace becomes a quiet revolution, not just for you, but for your entire web of relationships. When you no longer pour yourself out endlessly, you find that the self has been refilling you all along.